Hey guys, how is it going? Mario here. In just 2 days, the Premier League season returns, and very soon we'll be able to learn how each team's different preparation for the new season will pan out. Now, these preparations include a mixture of the work that's being done on the training pitch, all the shenanigans that are going on behind closed doors, the transfer window, sagas, and of course, all the previously done work in the previous seasons and years. Preseason is an interesting and an exciting time for everybody because, as we well know, the Premier League is the hardest league in the world. And in preseason, everybody still has their own high ambitions, their own goals for the season. And it's always interesting to see how these ambitions and these goals are met or failed to be met. But of course, this is also a nice opportunity to for people to give their predictions. And I thought I would join in on the trend and risk myself looking like an idiot in 9 months' time or maybe even sooner. So let's get into my predictions for the 2026-2027 Premier League season. Now, before I start with the predictions, I just wanna warn you that, as you well know, I'm a Chelsea fan. So even though I've tried to give my honest opinion and the not so biased one, I cannot promise you that these predictions will not be biased because at the end of the day, I'm a Chelsea fan and I want to see my team win. So let's see where I've put Chelsea in the mixture, where I've put Spurs, Arsenal, how biased I've been towards Lampard. We'll soon answer all these questions. So let's get into the relegation battle and my predictions for it. Now, these are the bottom five teams that I have. In 20th, I've got Hull City. I think that's the easiest team to predict this season, to be honest. I think they absolutely overperformed the previous season in the championship. And honestly, I believe we could see some records being broken. That's how bad I think Hull City will be. Now, I have nothing against Hull City. I genuinely I wish them luck, but I just don't see them surviving. Now, Ipswich is a bit more interesting. They've lost Kieran McKenna, which I think will be a big hit for them. And as we well know, newly promoted sides in the Premier League don't tend to do very well. So I can see them struggling. So that's why I have them in 19th. And maybe the first big surprise that I have in my predictions is Sunderland in 18th. So Sunderland to go down and Coventry to stay up. Now, maybe I'm being a bit biased, but I'll try to give my reasoning why I think Sunderland might struggle this season. Now, first of all, let's be honest, guys, Sunderland really overperformed last season. If you look at XG tables and things like that, they should have been nowhere near the European spots that they managed to get. And credit to them, they played well, and I think their manager is actually quite a good one. But now they have European football, as I said, and they haven't also really improved or strengthened the team as far as I can remember. I don't see any big signings. Now they haven't lost players like Xhaka that Chelsea wanted to get, but I feel like Sunderland will struggle this season. Now Coventry in 17th, big lumps is there. I really hope they will survive. They've got Taiwo Awoniyi now. Now he played, and when he played for Nottingham Forest, he always looked good. So I have some hopes for Coventry. It could very well be that Coventry fail to meet the expectations of the Premier League and also go down, but I have them in 17th for now. And in 16th, now I think Fulham will not be dragged into a relegation battle, but I think they might struggle. They've lost Harry Wilson now. They've also lost Raul Jimenez, and of course, their manager in Marco Silva. Now, they've got Arbeloa from Madrid and the striker from Madrid. I'm not quite sure what his name is. So, they've made some changes. I don't think they'll struggle that much, but I have them in 16th. So yeah, overall these are the bottom five teams that I have, and let's continue with the mid-table teams that I've chosen. Now, just as a little clarification, I do believe these are very well settled Premier League teams. So I don't expect any of them to be struggling with relegation battles. And also, they're all interchangeable. Also, I could see Fulham, if they perform well, that they could join in this mid table squirrel, as you could say. But let's go through them one by one, and let's start with Crystal Palace in 15th. Now, they've lost Oliver Glasner, who I think is a very good manager. They've also lost Maxence Lacroix to Chelsea. There's also a lot of talk that Munoz could be going. So it would be interesting. Also, last season they lost Mark Gehi in the winter, and before that they lost Eberechi Eze. So they've been a selling club for quite some time. But once again, they're just one of those teams that are always from 10th to 15th. So I don't think they'll struggle much. They still have Mateta, Strand Larsen as a second choice striker. The Arsenal guy, Nketiah is also there. Sar, I think, is a brilliant footballer. So they have some good players, but overall, I do think they'll be just mid-table again. And not to forget that they are also playing Europa League this season because they won the Conference League last season. So I think that would also be a bit harder for them. Now, Leeds have improved, in my opinion, and I know a lot of people are very keen on. They've got Muharemovic in defense. They also brought Harry Wilson. So I think they will be quite settled mid-table team this year. I don't expect any struggles. They got Calvert-Lewin, Ampadu is there. Overall, I think they're a very solid team. Nottingham Forest in 13th. Now they got Glasner now, so it would be interesting how things go there. We all remember the Forest from 2, 3 seasons ago that were basically unbeatable. They had one of the best defenses in the league and were just such a pain to play against. And let's not forget that Glasner, during his time in Crystal Palace, was mainly a defensively sound coach. Like, he insisted on his team playing a defensively sound football. So I honestly think this is a match made in heaven. Nottingham Forest have some very nice defenders. They've got Murillo, Milenkovic. They also brought Diomande now. So it would be interesting how Glasner can perform. Now, obviously, the elephant in the room when it comes to Nottingham Forest is the owner in Marinakis. We saw during last season's, how can I say, adventures that nobody is safe. He sacked like what, 3 coaches, 4 coaches? I don't know, something like this. But I think if they find a way to work together, it could be a very successful relationship because let's be honest, he might be crazy, Marinakis that is, but he cares about Forest, so it would be interesting how things go there. Now in 12th, I've got Bournemouth. They've lost Irola now. Also, Krupi is injured for the start of the season, and they also have Europa League to contend with. Now, their new manager is Marco Rose, and I think he's quite a reputable manager and is also quite experienced. So I think he should be able to replace Irola. But then again, they were playing so well last season, so a person can honestly just expect there to be a drop off after all these pieces have been torn apart. And also, Europa League will not be easy on a team like Bournemouth. I don't know if they have the squad depth to contend with both competitions, but we'll see. It would be interesting to follow their progress through the season. Now, in 11th, I've got Everton. They've got David Moyes again, and I think they've strengthened the team a little bit. They brought Hayden Hackney from Middlesbrough, who was Championship Player of the Season. They've also signed Eric George from Chelsea, and they've got Brennan Johnson now. It would be interesting if there is some movement surrounding Munoz and Grealish, and I think they've been linked to a right back quite extensively during this transfer window. So there still might be movement around Everton, which could bump them up a few places, but I just expect them to be a solid mid-table team that basically nobody wants to play against. But in the end of the day, I don't see them really contending for the top spots. And yeah, overall, these are my mid-table teams. Now, if any of them over or underperform, they could easily move up and down the standings. As I said, they're quite interchangeable with Fulham. But I think these 6 teams, including Fulham, of course, will be the mid-table ones. So let's continue and take a look at the teams that I think will be fighting for the European spots. Now, in 10th, I've got Newcastle United, and boy oh boy, have there been changes there. Now, they were supposed to start the season with Eddie Howe, but in the middle of the summer, they decided to scrap that idea, and Eddie Howe was sacked. Of course, they also lost Sandro Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes, which basically means a whole new midfield. Anthony Gordon is also gone. So they still they still are a stable team. They have good players: Voltemade, Visa, Luis Ho, Tino Livramento, Dan Burn. It would be interesting how things go there. I know a lot of people are actually expecting a big drop off, but from what I've read from Newcastle fans themselves, they are quite excited. So I've got them in 10th, but depending on how the new manager does and how the players he chooses to use perform, they could very easily move up or down in the standings. So yeah. Now in 9th, I got Brighton. They have Europe. I think they actually start the European Conference League starts tomorrow. They're playing the playoff. Anyways, they've got European matches now. But overall, Brighton, they've proven themselves to be one of those teams that are just good. Chelsea B, as a lot of people like to joke. And I'm sure in 2, 3 seasons, we'll be buying more players from them. They'll be selling players with 60, 80, 100 million tax. They've lost Danny Welbeck now, which I think is a big miss for the experience side. They've also lost Milner. Minte has a long injury. Mitoma is still not fit for the start of the season. So there are some struggles there. We'll see how things go. Oh, they are also selling or close to selling Carlos Baleba to Manchester United. So that's another miss for them. Maybe they could join the mid-table scrap, but I just think they've got more about themselves than the other teams, so I've put them in 9th. Now in 8th, I got Brentford, which might be a surprise for some people. I Now a lot of people expected last season Brentford to struggle, but I actually liked how they performed. They were one of the first teams that got used to the set pieces, long throws, things, shenanigans that we were seeing, and they were very good at it. They've got Thiago, they've got Kevin Schade, Dango Ouattara, all good Premier League attacking options. They've lost Henderson now, so we'll see how they replace him and the experience void he'll leave there. But I think they're just one of those solid teams, Brentford, Brighton, that they are just Premier League quality right now. So I've got them in 8th. Now in 7th, I've got Aston Villa, and I think a lot of people will not like this, but they've lost Morgan Rogers now, and I think that will be a big miss for them. There are also a lot of rumors that Ollie Watkins could be going. Emi Martinez is close to leaving. It's it's interesting how Aston Villa will perform. Now, Unai Emery is a brilliant head coach, I'm not denying that, but I think they're losing a lot more players, and I don't see them massively improving. So yeah, I've got them in 7th. Now in 6th, I've got Tottenham Hotspur, which I personally hate, but I have to give it to them. They have improved the squad massively, and they've backed Roberto De Zerbi, who I think is also quite a good coach. They've brought Sandro Tonali. They've also brought the West Ham guy, Mateus Hernandez. So I do believe these are big improvements on the midfield. The only places that I'm worried about for Spurs is their attack, which is maybe controversial since they were so bad in defense last season. But I think they've strengthened in defense with Van de Ven and Van Heke now. Of course, Senesi is also there. Andrew Robertson joining on a free. Yeah, I think Spurs have strengthened there. I've put them 6th in my predictions, but honestly, I if they perform well, they could go even further. But it's also Spurs, so I could see them finishing 12th for no reason. But yeah, these are the spots that I have for European football. Now, I've color graded them with last season in mind. So basically, eighth gives Conference League, sixth and seventh give Europa League, and the top five Champions League. Now we know that this is not a certain. We'll need to see how things go, but for now, this is the color grading that I've used. And let's take a look into the top five that I have. Who will be first? Who will be the champions? Can Arsenal retain the title? How will Enzo Maresca do with Manchester City? Can Chelsea go on and win it? Will I be biased? Well, of course I will. I've put Chelsea to win it, but let's get through all the teams that I've put, starting with Manchester United. Now, I know people are excited, mainly Manchester United fans, to be honest, but I do think last season was an overperformance from Carrick since he came in. And even though I think there will be a drop off, I don't think it will be a massive one, and I still think they make the top five. They're linked to Baleba now. They've already improved the midfield with Tielemans and Santos, so they've replaced Casemiro, you could say. And in attack, they were already pretty solid last season, so I think they will be fine. But I do expect a drop off. Now in fourth, I've got Manchester City, which is a massive drop off if you consider the things that Guardiola was doing in the last 10 years. In the Community Shield, they looked really, really shaky against Arsenal. Now, I know Maresca betrayed Chelsea and he's a little bit of a snake, but I do think he's a good coach, so I think he'll eventually find his footing. But the question comes, will the fans and will the board accept a little bit of a drop off? Because this is Manchester City. They're winning titles every season, basically. So if they're not in a title race, how will things go? Will he get sacked? It would be interesting to see how things go there. They've got Elliot Anderson now, but Rodri is very close to leaving. Matter of fact, I think it's already been given as a here we go by Fabrizio. So losing Rodri, yeah, I don't know. Bernardo Silva, John Stones also gone. Yeah, I think Maresca might struggle a little bit. In third, I got Liverpool. Now, this is a bit of a leap of faith. I just think Liverpool and Iraola will match very well. It reminds me a bit of Jurgen Klopp's style of energy and just running and this kind of Liverpool. Now, they still have a pretty light attack, but the transfer window is not closed as of right now, and they've been very heavily linked to Barcola. So if they get him, I fully expect them to to get third easily. But we'll see if they stay with Rio and Gakpo, Isak up front and Wirtz. I don't know. Maybe they'll struggle a little bit, and there are also rumors about Gakpo leaving. So I don't know. They need some signings up front. Now, I've put Chelsea first and Arsenal second. This is mainly my heart talking. If I had to make a bet, it would be Arsenal to win it. I I think they overperformed last season, and maybe they didn't overperform, but the other teams were bad, so that's why they won the Premier League. But with so many managerial changes, I expect Arsenal to be very good again because they're basically the only team that has had a manager for a very long time now. So they will be very strong. They will be very scary, but I do believe in Xabi Alonso, and I'll give you the reasons why Chelsea can become champions. Now, obviously, the first and main reason is that Xabi Alonso is a very good manager. The things that he did at Leverkusen were basically unseen before. So it's an exciting managerial signing. I know he didn't perform that well at Real Madrid, but I think it was just a poisonous chalice as a job if he ever took it. So that's one of the reasons it didn't work. But one of the main reasons that I can see Chelsea challenging is because we don't have Europe. And I think that's an obvious reason. The last time we won the Premier League, we still didn't have Europe. It was under Antonio Conte. And just that week of a break that you get for not having Europe is can make just such a big difference. And of course, Chelsea will need Reece James and Levi Colwill to stay fit. We'll need Moises Caicedo firing on all cylinders. We'll also need Cole Palmer to retain his best form from 2-3 seasons ago. And Joao Pedro, I'll not speak about him because he can stay as he is right now. Now, we've also strengthened pretty heavily on the left attacking side of the pitch with Morgan Rogers, so that's a big plus. But yeah, I do believe it will be a hard thing for Chelsea to win the Premier League, but I don't think it's impossible. So yeah, I've put Chelsea as first and Arsenal as second. As I said, would I put my money on that? Probably not, but it's my channel, so I've put Chelsea first. Now, if you like the video, guys, please give it a like, subscribe if you're new around here, comment what you think about my rankings. Do you think Chelsea actually have what it takes to win it? How is the top 5 looking for you? And yeah, guys, I will be seeing you in my preview for the Fulham game, which will be just before the game, where I'll be picking my team and predicting the result. So stay tuned for that. And of course, remember to keep the blue flag flying high.